Hey everybody, welcome to Monday. It's Jim, it's Amadeus. It is soccer, and we are Amadeus on the weekend after, as the old saying goes, of the Champions League final, and you and I had it nailed perfectly. Just the wrong team. It was Inter getting by Man City 1-0, and they got the hardware for the first time. So good on them. But it was everything we expected it to be.
Yeah, Manchester City, they get their first Champions League title. They win the treble, so big season for them. But yeah, that game pretty much went exactly how we thought it was going to go. Um, Obviously, you had the 1-0 score line. We thought Inter was going to take it, but I mean, there is a prop bet out there to take either side by the score of 1-0. So if you decided to take a chance on just a 1-0 score line for either team, you made some money there. If you bought my total of the year for Champions League on the under 2.5, you cash there. We were talking about Inter +1. That was a push. The Lautaro prop didn't cash, but I said Man City team total under 1.5. That was a casher and at the plus money. So definitely a profitable weekend from that game. There is no complaints with that one.
Well, there you go. That's why you got the Twitter handle plus money, buddy.
Yeah. And Inter had their chances. Sure enough, they really tried to defend, keep Man City out of their net. And sure enough, exactly what I said it was going to happen happened. They got to about the 60-minute mark. Off comes Dzeko. Here comes my guy Lukaku, and right away, Inter could have taken the lead. They had their chance, but Lautaro got greedy and decided to go for goal. But if he had just tapped it into the empty space to the left of the goalkeeper's left, Lautaro's right. Lukaku was barreling down in the box. And Lukaku's a big-bodied guy. He did have a defender on him, but he's left-footed. All Lautaro had to do was just tap that beside the goalie, and, here comes big-bodied Lukaku. He could have hooked that in with his left foot. We could have been staring at a completely different scoreline.
True. Absolutely true. But, sometimes it's just not your day, and it wasn't there. And what are you going to do? It's going to be amazing. Now that the Champions League's over, any thoughts you have about how it played out? I mean, was this a good year for the Champions League, or are we looking at better times?
I mean, it depends how you want to look at it. Some people are going to look at it like a good year. Some people are going to look at it like a terrible year because Manchester City won. Yeah. So, like we talked about last week, a lot of the City haters. So there's a lot of neutral fans out there that are just pissed off to see them finally get it done. But I mean, it took them well over a decade from the initial influx. So say what you want about the team. And yeah, they finally got it done. It's been a long time coming, but yeah, I really don't. It's interesting because before this season, the last few years, there's been speculation of if Pep Guardiola is even going to stay there. So now that you've won the treble, it'll be interesting to see what players decide I want to stay and fight for a starting spot on this team, or I want to go to a different club. We completed the treble. We've already, done the top of the top. It's only down from here. So let me find another club that's on the come up. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long Pep decides to stay with the team now that he's obviously completed the treble.
There's really nothing more to do, right?
That's the thing, right? Like obviously they've established a dynasty team. They've dominated the Premier League for so many years, but it's one of those things where this was the Champions League title. That was the elusive one that they were longing for so long. And now that they finally got it, and they got it in a year where they completed the treble, you got to be thinking there's got to be a bit of a feeling of accomplishment there.
Right, sure.
They completed the goal. And you can't really go anywhere up from here except, of course, winning the Club World Cup, which would be big for them because they obviously haven't won that either. You got to win Champions
Right.
League to compete in that. So yeah, I guess the only thing left is to see how they match up next year against some of the best teams in Asia, South America, North America. So we will see them.
So from your standpoint, as we this is something that sports people do. About 47 seconds after the game is over, you start projecting about what next year is going to be. So in keeping with that time-honored tradition, what are you looking forward to in the changes for 2023 and 2024 in the Champions League?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting season because obviously you're going to have some new teams in there like Manchester United, who we haven't seen in a while in the Champions League, and Newcastle is going to be in there. So just from the Premier League side of things, it's going to be interesting. In Italy, you're obviously going to have the same teams, pretty much, the two Milans. I think Lazio actually is going to get into Champions League as well. So that's a team you don't see there often. And Napoli, obviously, the dominant season they had, they kind of fizzled out in the quarterfinal of Champions League. But if they can keep their team together, they'll be another interesting one to see if they can go deep in this competition because obviously, they won the title this year. So I would think the title would be less of a focus next year. Their focus would be more on winning the Champions League, especially after the dominant season they had. So that's going to be interesting. Germany is just a mess right now with their
So is France.
Yeah, like Germany, see that's the thing that bothers me. Like France is only given 2 Champions League spots. And that's another one. Even France, you're going to see Lens in there, which we never really see Lens. They finished second. They'll be getting the Champions League spot over Marseille. Right. So good on them. It's going to be a very different PSG team, obviously, that, they won the title, but they're going to be losing a lot of players too. So it's going to be definitely a different Champions League. And that's one of the things that bothers me is that so France is a league they consider because of the strength of the league. They only get 2 automatic Champions League bids, while the Bundesliga gets 4. But honestly, if we're going to compare the Bundesliga to Liga 1, I would give Liga 1 the 4 Champions League spots over Bundesliga. Because Bundesliga, besides Bayern Munich and Dortmund, like their top 4, I forget how their top 4 finished the season. I think there's Union Berlin and a few others. Let me just double check on that top 4.
Yeah, the funny thing about it is the Bundesliga in many ways is kind of like here in the United States equated to college sports in like the Big Ten, where it's always Ohio State and Michigan and the rest of the group. So the old joke about it's not really the Big Ten, it's the Big Two and the Little Eight. And it kind of works that way in France. I mean, it's PSG and fill in the blank, and then below that, there's not much.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be interesting. I think you're right. I think that that would be the French teams, the parity, which I guess we're getting now at a high level out of France, certainly outweigh the German side.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And so I'm looking at the Bundesliga table here. So yeah, Union Berlin, they finished in 4th. So that's going to be obviously a new team we haven't seen in a while in Champions League. The top 3 are the usual suspects. Bayern, Dortmund, and Leipzig. But Bayern Munich won the Bundesliga title on goal differential. They finished with the same 71 points as Dortmund. So this was a season where they fired their manager. They weren't the same dominant team in Germany. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, but we've had questions about this defense for a while. Obviously, they felt the need to fire their manager, and they brought in Tuchel, who's a lot more defensive minded. But it's a team that we've seen. They've had major issues over the last 2 years. They're finally addressing them. But if that's your strongest team in Germany, then yeah, absolutely, I would take, Lens, Marseille. There are some strong teams in France, and I think they deserve more than the 2 Champions League spots that they're getting right now.
Well, we're going to write a strongly worded letter to the Champions League folks and see what we can do to lobby to get them in.
Well, that's the thing, right? It can change. It all depends on how well they do in the competition. You can earn more bids to your league, right, the more teams from your league that go deeper into the competition. But I guess they just got to prove themselves right now. But, they have me convinced as a better league than Bundesliga. That's for sure.
Absolutely. There's that. There's the Champions League, as we said, the final there. And now the English Premier League. And what are some of the
All right, I guess we're having a little bit of technical difficulties on both ends. Jim's internet is obviously not doing great, and my internet is a little slow right now. But I see we got some questions in the comment section. Good to see you, Foxy. It's been a long time. Good to see you pop in there. But you said it perfectly. As I just mentioned, they can earn some more spots. The French teams really haven't done too well going deep in the competitions, and obviously that goes towards their 2 spots. But it's a shame they do it like that, because really, if you're just looking at the league from top to bottom, I would say Liga 1 is a lot better than the Bundesliga. But I do agree the Bundesliga teams tend to go deeper into these competitions, especially Europa League and the smaller ones. They do well in the Champions League as well. Obviously, you have a few that get past the group stage. Leipzig and Bayern are 2, obviously, that you see every year make it past, even Dortmund sometimes. So definitely there is a point to that with the Bundesliga, but I still think the Liga, they deserve, give them a 3rd spot at least, give them something, because this league's on the rise. They got a lot of talent. It's a very exciting league, definitely a very exciting league. But not so much soccer. The Champions League obviously, ended it marks the end of the European season pretty much. There are a few smaller leagues still doing their relegation playoffs and their promotion playoffs type deal. I know there was an Italian one yesterday, and the Netherlands was still doing theirs. So definitely there's some smaller leagues, but I will personally be turning my focus to the MLS and to South America, definitely Brazil and the Argentinian leagues. Foxy, if you're still in the comments, would love to hear your thoughts on some South American soccer. I know you are the resident down there, so you got all the inside scoop on these teams. But yeah, absolutely, still plenty of soccer to go around, and it's going to be a very exciting summer for these South American teams. Obviously, the MLS has the excitement around Messi coming to Miami. It's interesting. It was a very interesting decision. Obviously, he made the decision to go to Miami. Really, it was as a way so he could control his future. His father was really pushing him towards the money in the Saudi Pro League. But he decided to come here to Miami, and now the MLS basically sold their soul to get him with all the Apple deals and things around him. But definitely an exciting time. Personally, I think it means maybe he feels like there's nothing left in the tank competitively at that Champions League level, and he just wants to enjoy the rest of his career playing with his friends. But that's a good thing too, because it's always good, even though one great goes out the door, another one comes in, right? The Ronaldos, the Messis, even Benzema, they're all leaving Europe. Yeah, but these are all older players, and let's make room now for the Mbappes, the Rashfords, the Jude Bellinghams. Okay, now it's their time to shine. So definitely, I think it's an exciting time as the older players pass the torch on to the younger players.
That's a good point, and I know now that when I talk badly about the Bundesliga, my internet will go off. So
yeah, it's like they heard you. Even mine, I had to reset as well.
Like smack us down. Excuse me.
I had to leave and come back. I don't know what happened.
Crazy things happen. Hey, Foxy, how's it going? You bring up a good point, and that is there has to be a changing of the guard at some point. Now, my theory of the case of the MLS is this: you bring a Messi on, to the league, and it's absolutely. Is he at his best? No, that's not, that's not even debatable. But what he can do, certainly for an Inter Miami and, others, is he can help elevate those players. So the young players play with a Messi and learn from him and hopefully gain the knowledge they need to become better. And when you're playing against someone like that, I know that, for instance, when Rooney came over and played for DC United, there were a lot of the DC United players who said that Rooney spent a great deal of time during practice literally putting them in places, saying, you go over here, you go over there, and, trying to get them to understand, a higher level than what they were playing at the time. And, there was a lot of fun things that he did while he was a player. Now he's a coach at DC United. So, I think that while, Messi's not going to score 38 goals, what he is going to do, though, is elevate, the Inter Miami players and also, the teams that play against him, because they're going to have to, account for a world-class player of his kind. So it does work both ways. In Europe, they'll miss him, and you're absolutely right. The young guys will get their chance to shine. Meanwhile, over here in the United States, there's a lot of things to learn about about what he can do to help them. So maybe it turns out as a win-win.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's no secret that the MLS is improving, but it's still, not at the same level as these European leagues.
Right.
And it's always great to have a player like that come in, because absolutely it happens in every sport when you get a Hall of Fame type player tends to elevate the level of play. Look at Tom Brady, for example. He made an average wide receiver look like Hall of Famers his whole career. So
he made average teams look like
dynasties.
We won Super Bowls with average teams. It does. Look what he did to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise, who, they had talent. There was no question about that. Were they under any circumstance, would they have won a Super Bowl without a Tom Brady on the team? No, that was not going to happen. But, with a Tom Brady, not only did they win a Super Bowl, the following year they came, 90 seconds away from going back to at least a title game. So, it does, you're right. It does matter. And, you can benefit from the level of play that a great player can bring to you. I mean, even I'll tell you what, as crazy and as stupid as the Jets have been in the past, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were certainly a contender for the division in New York with Aaron Rodgers. They their problem to me is their defense. I don't know what that. We'll see how that works out, but.
Well, they didn't have a terrible season last year, so
No,
absolutely. It's just a few steps they got to take with the new quarterback.
Absolutely.
But yeah, definitely. And not only that, but I think another thing that the Messi thing does, it's not just the players, right? So obviously, he's going to score goals because his talent level is so much better than the rest of the league. He's going to get his goals even if he's not at his best. But I think the other thing, it doesn't just help the players. I think it also, brings excitement to the city of Miami or just the sport in general, because just like Messi's the kind of star player like David Beckham, in the sense where, he's pretty much a celebrity. Right. And I saw something, I even saw something where the Inter Miami, after they announced Messi was coming, they had gained something like 450 million followers on Twitter, just the club, because Messi's got like millions of people following him. So that's the point, is just just like David Beckham brought that kind of excitement, even if wasn't at his best. Messi doesn't have to be at his best. Just the sheer presence of him will cause neutral fans to maybe gain an interest in the game and say, "Oh, let's go watch Messi." Let's go watch Messi play.
That's a good point. And what will happen too is, Messi had to play for a Miami, a New York, a Los Angeles. It could not work if he played in, he played for the Columbus, team. It's just not going to
work. In Portland.
Right, set in Portland. Although in Portland he might have worked. I don't know. But it has to be a market. And Miami is a star-driven market. Okay. When Dwayne Wade and LeBron were, playing for the Heat, place was packed. Everybody, all kinds of celebrities were sitting on courtside. When the Dolphins were good, guys were rushing out there. And so, Inter Miami has done really well in drawing. And the funny thing is, they're not even playing it in Miami. They're playing in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. There you go.
Once they get their stadium,
they're playing in the high end area.
Yeah.
Perfect for Messi.
They're playing in in Fort Lauderdale at the stadium where the Strikers used to play in the NASL. It's a nice little stadium, and when I say little, it's like 12 to 15,000 people. So you can pack that place pretty easily. So when they get their new stadium finished in Miami proper, that'll even be better. You won't have to drive 40 miles to get there, which is always a good thing. And up 95, that could take 40 miles could take you 7 days. It just depends on the traffic. But yeah, 100%. It's going to get. It's going to help. It's going to help the ratings for the league. I got into a bit of a debate the other day where the Apple deal has brought out some Apple haters, which fine. It's not on me. I'm not Tim Cook. I don't have to worry about that. But the thing is, they were saying, well, look at how bad Apple's done in signing people up for the MLS. And I'm like, guys, it's, we aren't even half into a 10-year contract. It's going to take a while for people to, find them, number one. Two, to get used to seeing them not on ESPN or Fox, but on Apple TV. And then in a little bit of a Twitter back and forth, where the person was just, soured on Apple, no pun intended. I just said, let's be honest, okay? You're asking people to pay for a product that if I'm going to watch soccer, I'll watch it on Paramount Plus because that's the Champions League, okay? Or I'll watch it on Peacock because that's the Premier League, okay? Or I'll watch it on ESPN Plus where there's a bunch of leagues, okay? MLS does not move the needle as much. Then I find out that this person that I was in a Twitter battle with is one of the investors in the Austin team of the MLS. So, oops. Shouldn't have. Be careful who you battle with on Twitter. But it was a situation where, look, I'm not going to back down. Miami, gets messy. That's wonderful. I'm rooting that the MLS does well. I want to see it well. I want to see Apple do well. But it's just, you can't argue that the MLS quality of their teams is just not up to par. And when you dilute that as much as they have by literally giving anybody with the amount of money that it takes in a stadium to get there, a franchise, it's just, the MLS is kind of like the Starbucks of soccer. If you want, you can't go 20 feet without getting into there's another MLS franchise. It's like, and they're in cities where they shouldn't even be, where it just doesn't make any sense. But I'm not running the league, so not yet.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing, I think is hurting Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I know we like to harp on it a lot, but the schedule is a serious issue. And it's not just like in the sense where I say, oh, well, I don't have 14 screens.
Right.
You make a very good point with, people want to know they're getting what they paid for. Well, if you shove every single game from 7 to 10 on Saturday, I feel like I'm paying a monthly subscription to watch soccer 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Where if you space out the scheduling a bit, give me one Thursday game, maybe like 2 Friday games, a few Saturdays spaced out at different times, and a few on Sunday and Monday. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, I feel like I'm getting more for my buck with the subscription.
Game value. Right.
Because I can watch all these games now. But, it's not fair to the viewer if you're going to charge them and say, okay, well, by the way, all the games are at the same time. So, pick and choose what you want to watch, and you only really get to watch 4 a month if you only have time to watch that one game at that time, right?
I've gotten to the point where, and this is not the way you should watch any sport, but I've gotten to the point where I'm watching MLS 360, which is their, red zone type situation where, they go to the game when things are getting, exciting. And, rather than watching an entire game, which I don't think I have yet done, I have watched a bunch of them in, with MLS 360. Again, that's not how you want your sport to be marketed. Where you go to, where you watch snippets of a game. You prefer people to watch them all. And I'm quite sure that Apple would prefer that, I watch as many as I can. But as you say, you can only watch one. And even if you use your phone, right, to watch another one, you can only watch 2 games at one time. I guess, in theory, you could watch 2 early games and then 2 West Coast games. But I just, again, we have talked about that schedule, and you're absolutely right. As a consumer, for the money, you want to get what you're paying for, and having all the games stacked on a Saturday from 7 Eastern time in the on the East Coast to 7 Western time on the Pacific Coast. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And that's not going to, that's the league. Okay. You can't blame the teams. You can't blame anybody but the league on I mean, they're paying top dollar for for the production and for the stuff that goes involved with it. But I can have the greatest production of all time. If nobody's watching, it doesn't matter. It is what it is, and the MLS is basically, it's on them. It's not on anybody else, and not on the teams. And until they get that thing straightened out, and I agree with you. We've talked about this before. Why can't you have an afternoon game on a Saturday or Sunday? Why can't you do games in the middle of the week? Why can't you stagger? I wouldn't even stagger where you play, and I like your thought on this, where you have games from the East on a Tuesday and games on the West Coast on Wednesday. I don't see, so at least you can actually even say, okay, I'll watch the games from the East here, on Tuesday, and again stagger times a little bit, because you can do that, and because you've got the Eastern time zone and the Central time zone. Then you move over and take the Mountain time zone, because you have Real Salt Lake, you got those teams, and move over to the Pacific stuff. So I think you could actually do that too, and even have what baseball does, which is a getaway day. You could do a midweek. In the summer, you can do it in the fall, but you could do in the summer, have a 1 or a 2 o'clock start on a Wednesday or a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
You would get a good crowd, and like I said, especially in the summertime when kids are out of school and family, dad's off, or maybe mom will drop them off or take them, and that's the way they go. So Foxy says, Messi's World Cup, perfect timing to add World Cup coming up. I think we talked about this. Soon as well, Americans will finally understand that football really is the number one sport. Foxy, I wish I could say that is true, but we're not that smart. Okay, so don't give us credit for what we don't know. Okay, it will never, in the minds of some, outdo American football, despite we had the World Cup here in '94, okay, and we didn't. Ratings wise, it was a wonderful thing, but it didn't. I'm not going to say it didn't help, but it didn't twist the needle far enough. But if you look at what's going on in the United States as far as ratings is concerned, we're really watching soccer, but we're not watching American soccer. We're North American.
Well, even when the MLS staggers the games, they don't do it right. So
Right.
Tell me if this sounds right to you, Jim.
Okay.
So yesterday, there was
Mhm.
actually 2 MLS games. All of them were on Saturday, except for 2 they had yesterday.
Mhm.
Okay, so now explain this to me, Jim. Do you think this sounds right? So the first MLS game was St. Louis and the LA Galaxy. They played that
Okay.
at 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay.
The second game was Portland. I forget who they played. That one was at 10 p.m. Eastern time. 9 hours after the first
Okay.
MLS game started.
All right. Let's back that up for just a second. All right. From a programmer standpoint, you're going to play a 10:30 game, which is 7:30, Portland Pacific time, on a Sunday. Okay. When everybody knows that Sundays, usually, if you're going to go to a sporting event, because again, it's family-esque situation, you're missing your window. They could have played that at 7:30 Eastern time, which would have been 4:30 on the coast, and you would have had back-to-back games. A 1 o'clock game that would have gotten over right about the same time as the other game started. And that is what the NFL does. They start games at 1 o'clock, and they start games at 4:30, and then they start a game at 7:30 for a Sunday. But they only play one game 7:30, and it doesn't
People
matter.
usually pass out in the fourth quarter. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's snoring by that time. But no, that makes no sense. If you're going to do afternoon games, then do afternoon games. And I think that, look, I'm all on board for that. I just said it. Have the game in the afternoon, but you're right, 9 hours difference, and putting one on at 10:30 at night on the East Coast. And here's the thing, okay, which is very important to note. Only 22% of the country live in the Mountain and the West time zone. So why would you cut your audience off? Your potential audience. And again, the only sporting event going on at this time of the year, at that time, is ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball, which starts at 7 o'clock. So you don't even have a lead in. You have nothing that would give you any momentum heading in that direction. So unless you just happen to accidentally turn off from the Tony Awards and go over to Apple TV and go, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that I want to see Portland play. No, it makes no television programming sense. It makes no sports programming sense. It makes no sense from a marketing standpoint. It's just plain stupid. And there's no other way of putting it. It's just stupid.
Yeah, I was shocked. And I'll be honest with you, Jim. I watched the St. Louis game yesterday because I had some action on it. So it was on TV. So I turned it on at 1 o'clock.
Sure.
And then after the game, I said to myself, I said, you know what? I don't have any action on Portland, but I will watch that game. Why not? I went to go look for it. I was like, where's the game? I go look to see the start time, 10:30. I said, absolutely not. There's no way I'm even going to remember to watch that game. And sure enough, my whole afternoon went by, and then I got the notification, oh, Portland starts in 15 minutes. I was like, not watching that.
I'm good for them. It starts at that time. Portland versus Dallas. Thanks, Foxy, for bringing us up to speed on that one. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I don't think they even watch it in Dallas.
Probably not.
No, I just it's these guys can't continue to trip over themselves. Okay, Garber. I don't know. I mean,
that's what it is.
Yeah, well, everybody gets on Bettman. Okay, fine. On Trash Gary. That's okay. But Bettman doesn't get any criticism. I'm sorry, Garber doesn't get any criticism here. I don't get it. I mean, I really don't. You smash all your games into 2 days, or part 3. I mean, you can't really say that because they played. I think the first weekend and maybe the second and third weekend, those games, they play 1 or 2 games on Sundays. And but they don't play more than that. And you would think that even if you did, like you just said, okay, let's take half those games, right? And place half of them on Saturday and stagger the time, then turn around and do the same thing on Sunday. Then go back and do it again on Tuesday and Wednesday. Wouldn't that to me would make some sense? You would, need LA to be
and soccer lovers will buy when there's nothing else to watch. They'll buy the subscription, but they're not going to buy it when they know, well, I can only watch 1 game a week. Because after I finish watching the game I want, I'm not going to go watch a replay because I could just go check the score on my phone. Oh, 3-2. I don't need to know now. I don't need to watch the game.
You don't need to spend $90 to get it. So, yeah, we got to help Foxy out here. What's the question here? He needs LA to beat Houston Wednesday. Last game of parlay, but they got hammered by them the other day.
He's got LAFC to close out FC.
Oh, it's FC. Okay.
He's got LAFC, but he's worried because they got absolutely clapped on the weekend, and I saw that coming because of they lost the Champions League to Leon at home.
Who they lose to?
I forget who it was. They
Oh,
were on the.
he says they got hammered by
Austin?
Houston playing.
They
Did
got
Houston?
hammered.
Did
Oh,
they? I don't think they played back to back.
I don't think I was it Houston. I thought it was Austin. They got.
Oh, you're right. That's another Texas team. Maybe that's where Foxy's messing up.
Oh, yeah, there's so many now. Dallas, Houston, Austin.
Right.
The three MLS teams in Texas.
Dallas.
Oh no, it was okay. It was Houston. Yeah. Okay, I guess so. They played.
Okay. Where'd they play that?
It was in Houston. This one's in LA on Wednesday.
Yeah,
so
I'm not gonna. I don't. Foxy, I think you're safe on this one, buddy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that Houston's going to travel out to LA and clock them.
Houston's been a very bad team on the road for quite some time. This goes back all the way to years. I was going to say last season, but we go further back than that if you want. They're just terrible on the road, and LAFC is still one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, that was a tough one for them. They had to travel to Houston after losing Champions League on their home pitch to Leon. So I saw that they were probably going to have a bit of a letdown since that Leon match was a midweek match. But I mean, it is another quick turnaround. So they've been slammed. They played. They had a cup match on the 23rd, and then they played. They had their MLS match canceled in between on the weekend because they had the Champions League match midweek, and then they got another game canceled, so they got a week off before that Champions League. So actually, you know what? They might be okay.
Well, they're playing at home, right? Or did Houston beat them on the road? I'm confused.
Actually,
Houston,
hold on,
are they playing this game in Houston or are they playing it in Los Angeles?
This game's going to be in Los Angeles. So LAFC lost 4-0 in Houston on Saturday. Actually, there was a game in between their Champions League loss. It was the Atlanta. They tied with Atlanta at home, and then they got pounded on the road by Houston. So
that's not going to happen.
You'd think their heads would be right by now, I think, especially since their last match was against Houston and they lost 4-0. There's going to be a little bit of a revenge factor. That was just 4 days or a few days ago.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is, LA versus Atlanta was a draw. Okay. Made 100 saves. That's pretty good. 100 saves. That's pretty good.
You see that all the time, right? A team gets dominated, but the goalie's like on his head, and you're like, any other day would be 3-0,
and you get, and it seems like that same time where the goalie's out of his mind, right? And the ball is smacking off the crossbar. It's hitting off the sides. It's going, it's every piece of wood on the on the goal. But that's the same thing in hockey. How many times have you seen that? Where the defense in hockey, where the guys can't do anything right, and the goalkeeper is literally saving, everything that comes near him. And you as a goalie yourself know that. I mean, that there are days when man, there's nothing going to get past you.
Yeah, but goalies can steal games for sure.
Absolutely. I gotta say, Foxy, and I'm just speaking for me, not for anybody else here. I think that the Houston win against Los Angeles kind of an aberration of 4-0. Definitely 4-0. I do think Los Angeles, when they get home, because when you're home, you get a little bit of relaxation. You're the surroundings, and you have that opportunity just to recharge and go. And I think maybe that's going to be helpful. But we'll see. I do not speak for Amadeus, who is the expert. I speak for me, who is not the expert in this game.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I think there's going to be a bit of a revenge factor because it was the last match they played. They lost 4-0 in Houston, and now they've played 2 matches since losing that Champions League match. So it's time to get your crap together, LA, or what are you doing, right? Like get over it. It's time to move on and then look towards winning the next one.
Yeah, take them one at a time.
They're a massive favorite too. They're like a -1.5 favorite.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Just a quick aside. Do you feel that, or do you enjoy, I should say, watching indoor soccer? No, I'm
No,
not. I
that's
mean,
it's got a
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. I was just gonna say it's got a completely different feel to it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can pass the ball yourself. I mean, it's like, go down and kick it off the sideboard, and there was a time when that was popular because you know it could be played. It was kind of like indoor football, right? You could watch it. It could be played. It was quick moving, and in 2 hours you're in and out of the game, out of the arena. So there was an enjoyment factor to it. But as we here in North America got a little bit more savvy of soccer, then we realized that was more of a gimmick than it was actually a true soccer league. But it was popular for a while, and then just like everything else, it wore out its welcome. And so there you go. Didn't do much for us. Quick, let's take a quick look of changing topics here for a second. Let's take a quick look at the standings in Major League Baseball. Let's start with. Okay, we're starting with the American League East, where Tampa Bay at 48-20 tonight is on the coast. They're playing against the soon-to-be, who knows whether it's Las Vegas or where they're going to play, but the A's are still in Oakland for tonight. So,
I believe tomorrow is supposed to be their boycott day.
Oh,
where Oakland's going to sell out the stadium in support of the team, but we want the owners gone.
Right. So that'll be. I'll watch that one.
So you should see a full stadium in Oakland tomorrow. It might be the only time all year.
That's gonna be hilarious. Baltimore 41-24, 5.5 behind the Rays. Yankees are 9.5 behind the Rays at 38-29. They just come off a sweep by the Red Sox. Your Blue Jays are 37-30. They got a win yesterday. They're 10.5 back. And the 33-33 Boston Red Sox are 14 games off the pace. Minnesota has pulled to 500. So we got one team in the Central at 500.
Just barely.
Right. Cleveland is hot on their heels at 1.5 games back. The Chi Sox in Chicago are 4.5 games back. Detroit, Lenny and his team is 5.5 games back. Kansas City isn't even in the picture. If it wasn't for Oakland being so bad, Kansas City would be right there. Kansas City's 18-47. Oakland 17-50. So, you got
Oakland just swept the Brewers. So.
Yeah, if they didn't sweep the Brewers, they'd be screwed. Okay, so Texas is leading Houston, which those of you who know is also in Texas, by 5 games. Angels, Ohtani and the boys are playing above 500 baseball. That's good for them.
And they're playing the Rangers.
They're playing the Rangers, so maybe not so good. They're 6.5 back. Seattle's 10 back. And Oakland is in another zip code. They're 25 games out.
It's funny with that Oakland reverse boycott because the way they planned it, they were like, we want to show we can sell out like a meaningless midweek game that otherwise no one would go to. Well, the Rays are the best team in the league now. So,
right. So
a little bit of a backfire there. Yeah, pick the wrong team.
Did we look at the schedule? A friend who runs a radio.
Nobody expected them to be so good, right? Should have picked the Royals or something. Go with the safe team next time.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what we used to do. You used to in college, football. You'll see it a lot. When you have homecoming, you schedule a team that you have every right to beat, right? You want somebody that you can win, then the alumni has a lovely day.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is not happening on tomorrow.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know.
There we go.
They did not plan that one.
Anyway,
for sure.
I have a friend who right. I have a friend who runs a radio station in Baltimore, and he wanted a boycott of Peter Angelos and the ownership of the Orioles. Now, what they did is they bought. They didn't say they were going to buy out the stadium, which was probably wise on their part. But they ended up with, I believe, somewhere around 15,000 people. And the way they wanted to do it was, regardless of what was going on with the team, okay, at that time, they were going to leave at the beginning of the seventh inning, when the seventh inning stretch came. And literally at the seventh inning stretch, you saw 10,000 people in unison stand up and walk out of the ballpark. And it was a pretty impactful, look when you saw it. So it was kind of like, okay, people do not usually leave in the eighth inning unless the Orioles are down by 8 runs or more. But they did they did leave, and it did make the news because it was such a the national sport from that standpoint. So they made their point. Doesn't make look, ownership is not going to change because you sell a ballpark out and then you tell people how much you hate them. Baseball has for whatever reason chosen to keep them happy, meaning the A's ownership. But they're running out of time. That stadium, I swear, I can't understand how anybody would, as bad as the Trop is, and it's pretty bad, but it's nowhere near as bad as the Coliseum. I mean, the Coliseum is terrible, and it's just not nice. It's just not right. I mean, they figure something out. If you don't want, sell it to somebody who will build a stadium, if your problem is that. But no, the fans of Oakland have been treated poorly for so many years. It's not even fair.
That's the other thing, right? There's always an excuse.
The football team. Yeah. I was looking at NFL teams to win the Super Bowl. Who's a good long shot option? The London Jaguars. Huh? You know what? I don't know if they'll be in London by that point, but the Jaguars are not a bad pick. They have really, really picked it up. Coach Peterson and that group down there have really picked it up strong. So, Foxy, that's I would say that's a pretty decent bet. They are definitely there. 49ers, I don't know. Would you? I guess some people would consider them that wouldn't be necessarily a long shot, but I do think 49ers are good.
The 49ers and their 1 to 3
we're leaving out the obvious. Right, exactly. The quarterback of the week club. Although everybody's talking about the kid being back in time. I don't know that's going to be the case, but we'll see. What do we got there? Yeah, I don't know. Obviously we're not talking Kansas City, or we're not talking Buffalo, we're not talking the good teams. We're looking for somebody who might, maybe the Jets. We talked about them. They could be there, but yeah, definitely Jaguars are, have greatly improved. There's no question about that. They just have to learn to play 2 halves. That's their problem. They got down a couple of times in the first half. Crazy comebacks. That's not going to get you to the Super Bowl. That's crazy. But be careful on that. But Jaguars playing good. There's no question about that. So that wouldn't be a bad bet. So let me run real quick to the National League standings before we get out of here. Atlanta is at 40-25, leading the East in the National League. And of course, everybody's pick to be in second, the Miami Marlins, 37-29, 3.5, 3.5 games back. Now, here's a team that I think is going to start moving soon, and that's the Phillies. They're at 32, 33, and they're 8 games back, 9.5 back of the Mets. They're a mess. And then the Washington Nationals, my team, 13.5 games off the pace. The Buccos, Pittsburgh, in first place in the Central by a game over the aforementioned Milwaukee Brewers. Cincinnati played the Dodgers pretty well over the weekend. Are 4 games back. The Cubbies are at 6.5 games back. And St. Louis, who eventually will be in the playoffs. It's just the way they do it. Are 8 back. And then in the West, be surprising. Arizona Diamondbacks are in first place by 3.5 games over the Dodgers.
The Arizona Dodger
7 back. Yeah, exactly. San Diego, disappointing. San Diego, 9 games off the pace, and the Colorado Rockies at 14 games behind the rest of that division. So there you go. That's your Major League Baseball, and we've got. I also have the. I'll just give you the top 10 teams, the top 9 teams, because that's all it's going to make the playoff. In the NASL, it's in the MLS, it's Cincinnati, followed by Nashville, followed by Philly, followed by New England, Atlanta, Columbus, Orlando, and DC, with Montreal sneaking in right now on the 9 line to get into the playoffs, but it's very, very early. Out west, if only my mouse would work. St. Louis is on top. Seattle is behind it, but St. Louis is leading with 2 games in hand, which is pretty good. The aforementioned, we talked about them earlier. LAFC is in 3rd. Dallas is in 4th. San Jose is in 5th. Vancouver is in 6th. The Houston Dynamos are in 7th. Portland is in 8th. And Sporting KC is the 9th team in that division. So there you go for your up-to-date standings on a Monday. Interesting stuff. So
18 teams of a 32
any thoughts?
playoffs.
We have, is it from basketball? Yeah, it's hockey. What can I tell you? What's the deal with, we got 2 big games with Miami in both of them. Miami on basketball and Florida on, in the hockey situation. What do we think before we get out of here on that?
Oh, I have no interest in the hockey game. Everybody's talking like the Stanley Cup and the Larry O'Brien's already won. So whatever.
It is, but we'll just we have to wait to give it to the folks in Vegas. Not yet. You'll get it soon, but just give us some time. I do think Miami's on the way out from the basketball point of view. I think Denver is just they're playing too well. It may not be may not be tonight, but it will be soon. They only have to win 1 more game, so that's going to be tough. But, let's get promos in there, okay? Promos for you, my friend. Where can people find you and find your good handiwork?
Yeah, you can get my plays at BigAl.com and PickAdvisor.com. I got an MLB and an Argentina League play up today, so go get it.
Foxy, I don't know that it was 1 point, but they did. Most of the games the Jaguars lost last year were close games. I don't know that they.
I think he means by 1 score.
They probably were. Oh, so yeah, 1 possession games. Okay. Yeah, then you're right. They did. They lost a lot of games where at the last minute they, lost by a field goal or had somebody, didn't quite get there and lost by a touchdown. So yeah, they did lose a lot of games in the final quarter or they've got so far behind, and then they tried to catch up. They couldn't quite get to there. But that's actually usually a good sign that you're getting closer to what you want to attain. So I think that Coach Peterson and that team should be somebody to keep an eye on. So we shall see, right? All right. Okay, so you've already given your promos. Any game you would say to people, not that you're going to give away, but you would say this is a game that you should watch tonight.
Honestly, there's nothing really much tonight at all that interests me. It's a slow Monday.
I should have asked before I led into that one.
Yeah, well, obviously there's the
Heat betting on the Tonys last night.
Go watch the.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. So
trophy ceremony.
We'll watch the Heat game and right, yeah. Get ready to see the Larry O'Brien Trophy gets sent to them. By the way, I don't know if any of you all have HBO Max or Max, depending on where you are. But if you do, this has nothing to do with sports. There's a great show about it's about Watergate and the burglary that happened. And the reason I bring that up, which was that Lawrence O'Brien, who was the commissioner of the NBA prior to David Stern, was formerly the head of the Democratic National Committee. And it was his office in the Watergate complex that got broken into, which started the whole Watergate thing. And so there is a based on a true story show, which is on Max, which has to do with Watergate, and it's very entertaining. And speaking of based on a true story, there's also a show on Peacock, which Kaley Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory is in, and it's called Based on a True Story. So that one also. So I know you're sitting there going, why are you telling me this? Well, if you don't have any sports you want to watch tonight, there's 2 shows you can watch and enjoy those. So something for entertainment purposes. All right. So we're going to get out of here. And thanks, Foxy, for hanging around and giving us some good intel and all that information. And we will see you sometime tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and we'll have some fun then. Okay. Take care, everybody.